If you've played Fallout before, then you've come across the Brotherhood of Steel. Seen as the poster child for the series, the Brotherhood of Steel were founded as a military order by their founder Roger Maxson, and modelled on the knights and scribes of old that protected Western civilization after the fall of Rome. In the modern age, their key goal is the securement of dangerous and advanced technology to prevent the chance of an apocalypse occurring again. Due to the multitudes of roles and ranks within their organisation, the Brotherhood adhere to a strict chain of command known as the chain that binds. The chain that binds holds two key cornerstones that are essential to the operation of the Brotherhood. Number 1. Orders are to flow from on high down through the ranks. An order from a superior must always be obeyed, so that their wisdom may be carried out without hesitation. Number 2. Orders are to observe the flow and not skip ranks. A superior may only give orders to his direct subordinates and not to those beneath them. In this way, harmony of intent and cohesion of thought is maintained. Essentially, orders from superiors must be obeyed, but superiors must also respect their subordinates by not overshadowing their roles. In practice, an elder can obviously issue orders to a scribe or a knight directly. The important thing though is that they either let their commanding officer know before or after the fact. As there are a multitude of Brotherhood chapters across the wasteland, the exact layout of their hierarchy can differ from chapter to chapter at times. In today's video, we'll be basing our observation of their hierarchical structure off Arthur Maxson's East Coast chapter. 1, because it's the one we have the most comprehensive knowledge of, and 2, because the elders of the West Coast hold Arthur to be an example to be upheld, so it's likely his Brotherhood's chain of command either mirrors theirs or is what they aspire to be. The Brotherhood's hierarchy has 3 distinct branches: the Scribes, the Paladins, and the Lancers, that we'll be analysing today. However, the lowest position is one that nearly all Brotherhood members start off with, consisting of the Squires. At the very bottom of the totem pole in the Brotherhood of Steel, you have the Squires. Originally, Squires were members of the Brotherhood of any age who had yet to be issued with a specific order or rank. However, in the year of 2277, this is a title reserved for children and children only, who have either been born into or recruited by the Brotherhood. Given their age, they're not expected to participate in combat operations, but instead fill a non-combatant role required within the Brotherhood service. Squires carry messages and cargo, run errands, and perform labour, while also undertaking training and schooling within the Brotherhood's education system. Some are even taken out on field missions, but only to observe the inhabitants of the wasteland, and often the best ways to kill them. As expected of children raised in a military order from a young age, they're fairly indoctrinated with Brotherhood zealotry and values. Squires will often spout that they have no fear of death and will be proud to kill the mutants of the wasteland. Pretty standard stuff in the Australian school curriculum, to be honest. Although it is the lowest rank in the Brotherhood, it is still a rank. Elder Arthur Maxson himself was a lowly squire 10 years prior, before having a meteoric rise to the very top of the organisation, having basically done a speedrun of the Brotherhood hierarchy. Given that the entire order of the Brotherhood is dedicated to the preservation of technology, the Scribes are an incredibly important branch of the organisation. Whereas the Knights and Paladins represent the sword of the Brotherhood's logo, the Scribes are the gears, as without them, their mission would not be able to proceed. Within the branch of Scribes, there are 3 separate distinct orders that one can follow, depending on where their aptitude and expertise may lie. These orders are headed by an individual proctor, who reports directly to the head scribe, consisting of the Order of the Sword, responsible for research, acquisition, and development of weaponry; the Order of the Shield, responsible for research, acquisition, and development of power armor, vertibirds, vehicles, bunkers, and other defensive structures; and lastly, the Order of the Quill, responsible for the research, acquisition, and cataloguing of knowledge from the ancients, as they call it. In other words, any books, holotapes, or records from pre-war times are of interest to them, from Grognak the Barbarian comics to the President of the United States dietary requirements. No matter what order they follow, Scribes follow the same hierarchical structure in their branch of the Brotherhood. At the very bottom, a squire may rise to become a scribe initiate, essentially a research assistant who will help their superiors in whichever way they're deemed most effective. Scribe initiates are typically not allocated to a particular order at this level, but instead utilized by whichever order they're assigned to. However, if an Order of a Shield initiate shows promise or interest in weaponry, they'll be transferred to the Order of Sword upon becoming a full scribe. A regular scribe is assigned to one of the three orders and dedicates their life to the goals of said order. That being said, all scribes adhere to the one goal of creating records of recovered technology, cataloging, and then preserving it. At times, they're even able to experiment with the tech, but only if sanctioned by their superiors. Essentially, if the Brotherhood of Steel was a high school, Knights are the jocks and scribes are the nerds. Scribes love technology, and the more pseudo-religious worship that categorizes the Brotherhood can be predominantly seen in their order, as they study and worship technology in all its forms. Although they are rarely seen outside of Brotherhood bunkers and labs, some scribes can be seen out in the field, typically accompanying knights and paladins on high-stakes missions. Scribe Halen or Veronica are primary examples of a regular scribe. Senior scribes are the next rank above in the scribe branch of the Brotherhood of Steel. Having worked within their specific order for many years, they're experts in their field and entrusted with the most important projects or to pursue their own research if approved by their head scribe. For example, Senior Scribe Nariah can be seen investigating how mole rats developed a natural resistance to radiation in order to create a special chemical compound to protect Brotherhood personnel from radiation poisoning. Senior scribes are also entrusted with the training of initiate and regular scribes, passing along their knowledge of the order to the junior scribes in order to contribute to their continued mission. Although there are numerous senior scribes, the position is one that is highly competitive to reach. Proctor Quinlan states to Senior Scribe Nariah that many others are simply waiting in line for her position if she did not fulfill her duties to the best of her ability. The next level within the Brotherhood of Steel scribes is that of a proctor. Proctors are unique to the East Coast chapter and are unseen on the West Coast or Mojave. It's imagined that this may be due to the size of the East Coast, as proctors fill a role between a senior scribe and the head scribe that is somewhat unnecessary in other chapters. A proctor oversees their respective order, be it sword, shield, or quill, approving the tasks undertaken by the scribes beneath them, and are responsible for the management and operation of their order. They essentially are considered the head of their division, with all matters relating to their order going through them for approval. For example, Proctor Quinlan of the Quill has ordered all technical documents, blueprints, or books to be delivered to him for analysis. This is accomplished by sending out research patrols to recover such data, as well as authorizing bounties to pay Brotherhood members who recover data on a different mission. Proctors are therefore one of the highest levels that can be attained in the Brotherhood of Steel scribes. They're considered experts in their fields and are near irreplaceable. Despite her desire to return to the field of battle, Elder Maxson refuses Proctor Ingram for field duty, purely since no one can operate the Pridwin like she does. However, despite their prestige, proctors still report directly to the head scribe, who oversees all three orders. The head scribe will designate what projects are able to be approved in consultation with the elder, and then the proctor is entrusted to manage the operation of said projects themselves. The head scribe is the highest ranked scribe in a chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel, reporting only to their elder and the elder council of the Brotherhood. The head scribe is a culmination of a life dedicated to research and study. Having mastered the orders of sword, shield, and quill, they're nominally in charge of the entire scribe division. They delegate orders to their relevant proctor. Which are then relayed to the scribes that make up the order. For example, the head scribe is responsible for choosing what projects will be undertaken, what resources are allocated to whichever task, area, or project, as well as what scribe will be allocated to what order, as well as who was promoted through their ranks. In 2277, the head scribe of the East Coast chapter was Reginald Rothschild. In his role, Reginald helped navigate the challenges of losing their forces to super mutant attacks, outcast defections, and the Enclave forces. Despite their setbacks, he was able to complete his key task of activating Liberty Prime, and reverse engineered the Enclave technology acquired that led to the creation of the Pridwin. Last seen in Fallout 3, the role of head scribe is not mentioned outright, so we don't know if it is Rothschild that's still in the position, but maybe he's just remained behind at the Citadel. The last role within the Scribe branch is that of an archivist. They're mentioned only on the East Coast chapter, but an archivist appears to be the personal scribe that reports directly to Elder Maxson. The role of the archivist appears to be analysing energy readings that are recorded across the wasteland and to record their possible source. The only mentioned one is Archivist Knox, who reviewed Paladin Dance's data to determine the source of the energy readings in the Commonwealth and confirmed that they belong to the Institute. After passing on this information to Maxson, as well as the likelihood of the readings being dangerous technology or a weapon in the hands of the Institute, Maxson authorised the expedition to the Commonwealth. It's imagined that this position was created in the years after the Enclave's defeat. The Enclave came close to destroying the Brotherhood since they appeared almost out of nowhere in the capital wasteland. Archivists such as Knox therefore scour the regions of the post-war world to determine if any group may possess tech and strength that may pose as a challenge to the Brotherhood. A branch entirely unique to the East Coast Brotherhood of Steel is that of the Lancers. In the aftermath of the Enclave Brotherhood War in DC, the Brotherhood were able to appropriate a large amount of vertibirds from their fallen foes. Not only this, but the multitude of parts and schematics found at Adams Air Force Base also meant that the Brotherhood now had the blueprints and resources to create their own. Being able to have their own Air Force meant that a new dedicated division was required to maintain, build, and fly said aircraft, and were named the Lancers. With the previous analogy of the Brotherhood of Steel being a 1950s high school, the Scribes are the nerds, the Knights and Paladins are the jocks, but the Lancers would be the greasers. At the very bottom of the totem pile in the Lancers are the Lancer Initiate. Having been pulled into the Lancers after having shown aptitude for vertibird flight and maintenance, Lancer Initiates are given a crash course into what is required in the Order. Under the tutelage of Lancer Knights, they are trained on the maintenance, operation, and piloting of vertibirds. They're also taught call signs, evasive and aggressive flight maneuvers, and run combat drills for ground training in the event that they're downed. Lancer Initiates can be seen in-game piloting vertibirds independently, which is more of an in-game mechanic, but within the Brotherhood of Steel hierarchy, they typically only ever do so under the instruction of a superior. Once a Lancer Initiate earns their spurs, they're promoted to the rank of Lancer. Lancers are entrusted to fly their own vertibird, and typically have a wealth of experience in providing air support and transport duties for the Brotherhood's ground forces. A standard Lancer is the most common pilot that can be seen flying vertibirds across Washington DC and the Commonwealth. The next step above this would be a Lancer Knight, who are typically more veteran pilots of the Brotherhood Air Force. Their progress through the Lancer ranks evidently does seem to be based on merit and gained experience rather than within time frame in the Brotherhood. Proctor Teagan laments the loss of a Lancer Knight friend of his, stating that he'd seen him grow from a common wastelander to Lancer Knight in a very short amount of time. Lancer Knights are entrusted to use their experience and expertise to train initiates and mentor common Lancer pilots in all areas of aeronautics. Lancer Sergeants are the second highest tier within the Brotherhood of Steel's Air Force, considered the commissioned officers within the Lancer branch. Lancer Sergeants will have a small squadron, at most sometimes 2 vertibirds, that reports directly to them. They're assigned by the Lancer Captain to manage and secure flight paths to ensure Brotherhood forces are able to be provided air support and resupply. Part of this duty also is to ensure the loyalty of the local wasteland populations, as they are tasked to maintain safe trade routes for the caravans and settlements of the wasteland. The highest rank within the Lancers is that of a Lancer Captain. These men and women are few and far between, only being seen piloting vertibirds in the wasteland if the war has particularly escalated with the Institute, Railroad, and or the Minutemen. The main Lancer Captain interacted with in-game is that of Lancer Captain Kells. While sharing the rank with other Lancer Captains seen piloting vertibirds, Kells does outrank them since, while they may pilot one ship, he pilots the Prydwen. Kells' position as the commander of the Brotherhood flagship essentially puts him on par with head scribes or head paladins, as he reports directly to Elder Maxson and none other. As the captain of the Prydwen itself, the training and discipline of its crew rest within Kells' hands, even for Brotherhood members who do not typically fall under Kells' jurisdiction as a Lancer. Many Knights and even Paladins will comment that if they're late for muster, Kells will punish them, potentially by cleaning the Prydwen from the outside with a toothbrush. Kells also commands the fleet of vertibirds within the Brotherhood, and Bar Elder Maxson is the final say with directing their aerial forces. As an example, the expedition sent to Arcadia is commissioned by Captain Kells specifically. At the very bottom of the formal Brotherhood army rank system, we have the Initiate. There are some differences between chapters on what roles Initiates operate in, and even the different rankings of Initiates, but for our purposes we'll condense them into one. Essentially, the Initiate is the first rank for one who has been accepted into the Brotherhood of Steel. These individuals are considered trainee Brotherhood members, being either former squires undergoing additional training or wastelanders who have been inducted into the Brotherhood. For the latter, it's an opportunity to instill the values of the Brotherhood into an individual who had not been raised in, and some could say indoctrinated, in their values. In the past, chapters were very reluctant to accept initiates. Sentinel Sarah Lyons claims that Wasteland initiates are undertrained and too damn trigger happy for their own good. However, it's unlikely the stigma has remained, as at the time of Fallout 4, a number of Brotherhood members, some at fairly high ranks, are stated to have been recruited within the last 10 years since Fallout 3. Initiates will complete their training, after which they're encouraged to pursue their chosen path in the Brotherhood. Most will enter the standard Brotherhood army fighting force, however, those with the inclination for either the Scribes or Lancer orders will be encouraged to pursue a career in either. Once a person has proven themselves to be capable in the role of Initiate, they're able to be promoted to the rank of Knight. This can occur through sponsorship from their commanding officer, who appoints the Initiate to their new role and typically remains a point of contact for them in their career. Differences abound in the duties of Knights between chapters, and some even undertake a myriad of roles within their own. On the West Coast, Knights are responsible for manufacturing and repairing weaponry, whereas this role is fulfilled by the Scribes within the Order of the Sword on the East Coast. East Coast Knights are denoted as being a strictly military rank, as the first formal rank in the Brotherhood Armed Forces. However, their roles can be slightly different from each other. For example, Knight Lucia is posted in the Brotherhood Supply Depot in a logistics-based role, ensuring that the members of the Brotherhood are fully stocked with weapons, resources, and supplies. Other Knights, such as Knight Reese, are assigned in pure combat roles. Essentially, Knights are the foot soldiers of the Brotherhood, and the role that they play within said organisation is based on their aptitude, skill, or wherever their superior has decided to post them. If a Knight succeeds in their duties, they're promoted to a more senior rank, consisting of the Knight Sergeant. Knight Sergeants are entrusted with the command of a squad of Knights, typically consisting of 5 members at most. While they do still report to their commanding officer, the Knight Sergeant is the direct report for Knights in their squadron and is responsible for their training, welfare, and discipline. Knight Sergeants are also given a command of a base or outpost, such as the Galaxy News radio outpost, or Knight Sergeant Gavel, who commands the airport supply depot. Having shown capability in managing troops and leading operations, a Knight Sergeant will be promoted to the rank of Knight Captain. Knight Captains typically hold staff roles and command positions. For example, Knight Captain Larson commands the expedition sent to Arcadia to wipe out the synth presence in the location. However, the role of a Knight Captain can also vary from one another. 3 members of the Lion's Bride, an elite squadron of troops in DC, hold the rank of Knight Captain. None of the 3 command troops outright or oversee the admin of a Brotherhood location, but are instead granted this rank to denote their seniority to other troops. One of the more notable Knight Captains is that of Cade, the medical officer for the Brotherhood forces in the Commonwealth. Although medical services are seen to be the role of scribes in other chapters, it appears the role is fulfilled by their knights. Within real-world militaries, doctors are often commissioned officers since there's a perceived reluctance from military members to follow the orders of a civilian. By providing Cade the rank of Knight Captain, this allows him to have military authority over the members who are annually medically examined by him. The highest class within the Knights is that of a Knight Commander. A Knight Commander is a stone's throw away from being appointed as a Paladin, having shown dedication and duty to the Brotherhood. They're seen in the field leading troops directly in engagements, often leaping from vertibirds, and are in charge of running most operations. They can also be given command of postings in DC and the Commonwealth that are of vital importance to the Brotherhood of Steel. Now for the big leagues, the Paladins. In the original structure of the Brotherhood of Steel, Paladins were considered a different class from the Knights. However, on the East Coast, Paladins are not considered a different caste itself, but instead a higher rank above the Knights. The lowest level Paladin outranks the highest Knight, basically. Veteran fighters and exceptional commanders, Paladins are the cream of the crop for Brotherhood forces. They will typically lead squadrons of Knights and Squires in missions and operations, such as Paladin Dance being the commanding officer for Recon Squad Gladius. Paladins are clad in the finest of power armor and get to wield the mightiest of weapons in their bid to uphold the glory of the Brotherhood. On the East Coast, they are typically denoted based on their black-coated power armor frames. If a Paladin covers themselves in glory, they may find themselves promoted up to Paladin Commander. On the East Coast, Paladin Commanders are the leaders of combat units and are very well respected across the Brotherhood. They are rarely seen out in the wasteland, as the loss of one of these men or women is felt immensely by the chapter. Paladin Commanders instead are seen mainly behind the scenes, planning operations, formulating tactics, but can be devastating to their foes when brought into action. The highest rank in the standard Brotherhood Corps is that of the Head Paladin. As the name denotes, the Head Paladin is the highest commanding officer for the Paladin Order and reports directly to their Elder only. In their role, they're responsible for the training and instruction of all Paladins under their command. This includes devising training drills, propaganda sessions, and overseeing the operation of their missions. Given that the role entails a huge amount of management and logistics skills, as well as cultivating loyalty and respect from their subordinates, the Head Paladin is often considered next in line for the position of Elder. This can be seen within the Mojave chapter in particular, as Head Paladin Nolan McNamara succeeded to the position in Elijah's abdication, while consequently, Head Paladin Edgar Harden can challenge Elder McNamara for the position if provided evidence to do so. Essentially, the Head Paladin is the key point of contact for the Paladins, Knights, and Initiates under their command. Their decades of experience allow them to manage and resource the army efficiently, but they're also considered to be the most capable warriors within the Brotherhood's arsenal. The role itself of Head Paladin isn't actually seen on the East Coast chapter, but it may also be the case that the occupant of said position remain behind in DC at the Citadel alongside the Head Scribe, as losing both heads of the division would be an enormous blow. Although not necessarily above the Head Paladin, Star Paladins fill a somewhat miscellaneous rank within the Brotherhood. A Star Paladin is a position of immense honour, with only the most steadfast and loyal of Paladins rising to this role. Star Paladins are given the liberty of having freedom in conducting their own operations, and report only to their Elder. As such, they're on par with a Knight Commander. However, in contrast to the Commander, they don't command troops in battle. The capabilities of the Star Paladin instead lie in their ability to accomplish missions on their own, or in the company of a companion. Star Paladin Cross is the most notable example of the role. Although being Elder Owen Lyon's bodyguard, Cross is given the freedom to journey the capital wasteland on her own missions, given the fact that any mission she completes will undoubtedly fulfill the Brotherhood's agenda. A Star Paladin is essentially a role to reward service in the Brotherhood for high-performing members who might not necessarily be leaders. Not every Paladin wishes to command troops in battle. Some would prefer to be in the field, crushing skulls and exchanging fire, rather than planning operations from the safety of a HQ. That being said, not all inhabitants of the role lack leadership qualities, but prefer to operate within the freedom that the role provides. Elder Owen Lyons was previously a Star Paladin, prior to his promotion to the role of Elder. The Sentinel is the highest possible rank achievable in the Brotherhood military. It's an incredibly unique position in that it sits above even the Head Paladin, with the Sentinel answering only to their Elder and the High Elder Council itself. The thing is though that the position is not constantly filled. If the current Sentinel dies, yet no other member is considered worthy to replace them, the position remains empty. The Sentinel is an individual who is given an incredible amount of trust by their Elder. They do not require specific orders and conduct missions completely at their own discretion. This level of freedom is granted as the Sentinel is almost considered a manifestation of the current Elder's will. They act in accordance with their values and goals, and can command the loyalty and respect of Brotherhood troops across the entire chapter. In Fallout 3, Sentinel Sarah Lyons filled the position, assuming command of the Lions Pride squad. Her freedom in the role meant she was able to create her own squadron, made up of the most highly skilled troops within the entire Brotherhood, and was able to choose missions to direct her own personal forces at. In the 10 years between Fallout 3 and 4, there evidently was a Sentinel after Sarah Lyons rose to the position of Elder. Upon being appointed to the role, Elder Maxson states to the sole survivor that it's been many years since a Sentinel served under him. The Sentinel is basically considered the absolute best of the best in the Brotherhood. They are expert tacticians, tenacious fighters, and inspire loyalty in any troops under their command. A Sentinel is the Elder's most trusted confidant, and considered the heir apparent in the event that the Elder's position becomes vacant. Within a chapter for the Brotherhood of Steel, the absolute zenith of authority able to be reached is the position of an Elder. Commonly, the trajectory to reach such a position comes from years of service within the Paladin ranks. However, there are sometimes exceptions of Elders appointed from other orders. For example, Elder Elijah was a former head scribe appointed to the position, as he was classified as a genius, although his appointment was deemed quite controversial. Elders are the supreme leaders of the chapters. They're responsible for issuing edicts, guiding the order, and commanding their chapter to fulfill the mission of the Brotherhood. Given the breadth of their power, an elder in charge of a particular chapter will shape the policy and culture of how said chapter operates. For example, Elder McNamara of the Mojave chapter is described as one of the most progressive Brotherhood members, and has instructed his forces to remain neutral to the neighbouring supermutants in Black Rock, given they were peaceful under Marcus's guidance. Owen Lyons is another example, as he was excommunicated by the Brotherhood High Council for deviating from the core mission that his chapter was sent to Washington DC to fulfill. Essentially, Lyons wished to save the Wastelanders from the supermutant threat, rather than just recover advanced technology. In contrast, Elder Hardin is described as a dyed-in-the-wool conservative. He instructs his forces to decimate the Van Graff crime family in New Vegas purely because they sell and possess high-tech weaponry. Elder Arthur Maxson is seen to have a foot in both worlds, and has dramatically shaped the guidelines of how the East Coast chapter operates under his rule. Recovering advanced tech and preventing Armageddon are of utmost importance to him, which is why he initiates the war with the Institute. However, Maxson is also somewhat of a reformer, since he permits Wastelanders to join their ranks and promotes cooperation and trade with local communities, deeming that it's easier to win and rule the Waste if they can win the hearts and minds of the Wastelanders. Essentially, the orders of an elder are to be followed and their authority respected, yet they are also still answerable to their subordinates, as well as the High Council of Elders above them. Many elders have been stripped of their titles for not properly adhering to the Brotherhood guidelines, or the chain that binds. For example, Elder McNamara can be deposed by Head Paladin Hardin for conveying orders directly to Hardin's troops, while keeping Hardin in the dark. Another, named Elder Lorne, was deposed after facing a tribunal from the ruling elders. While he was found not guilty, the High Council of Elders chose to demote him, as the shadow hanging over him would impede his ability to lead. An elder is the absolute authority in the Brotherhood chapter. However, the official leader of the entire Brotherhood of Steel is the High Elder. The High Elder is not the supreme dictator over the entire organization, but instead considered first among equals. The High Elder sits on the Council of Elders, located in the Brotherhood homeland in Lost Hills. The council is comprised of 4 elders and the High Elder, who will debate on the policy and future of the Brotherhood of Steel. The High Elder's role is to moderate meetings and break deadlocks in the event that the council cannot agree by casting their vote. For example, the council may debate going to war against a perceived hostile faction. 2 elders vote yes and 2 vote no. The High Elder is then permitted to cast a vote to decide what course they will charter. More recently, the council and High Elder had voted to cut off support to Owen Lyons when he went native, in their words, and then they also reopened communication and support when Arthur Maxson was appointed to his role and followed the Brotherhood guidelines. The current High Elder is unnamed, but the position is one highly revered within the Brotherhood. Its founder, Roger Maxson, was the first High Elder. The High Elder therefore is meant to encapsulate all that the Brotherhood is and live up to the mantle set by High Elder Roger Maxson. And that is all the Brotherhood ranks. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you for the next one.